Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I'm thrilled for this installment of Community Poetry, first Wednesdays of the month, that I can share with you poetry from a performance pavilion space here in the French Quarter, technically the French Market, right off the French Quarter. But I thought I'd share with you some poetry from the brand new cc&d magazine book releases from November of 2021, volume 315. It's called Down and Inside. And I'm going to share with you some poems from the end of the poetry section. The first one I'd like to share with you, bookmark here, is called Keep Your Chin Up. And it was written on the 3rd of November, which is on Cliche Day. Uh-oh. How many cliches are we going to have with us? It's called Keep Your Chin Up. You know, ignorance is bliss, and they say love is blind. And for you, I was all in. I gave you 110%. Because you can't judge a book by the cover when actions speak louder than words. And then they say you can't please everyone, though what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. So I had to think outside the box when all is fair in love and war. Because everything happens for a reason. And as I say, where there's a will, there's a way. For if misery loves company, let me at least be lucky in love. If I'm going back to square one, I'll go back to the drawing board. I won't beat around the bush. You won't. And when you're my better half, I'll burn the candle at both ends. I'll burn the midnight oil. Because come hell or high water, I'll go against the grain. I'll go for broke. Because for all intents and purposes, we're two peas in a pod. I have such high hopes when you make me happy as a clam. In other words, you make the sunrise. You're the bee's knees. You're the icing on the cake. So I'll keep my chin up and I'll keep my fingers crossed. In this labor of love, I'll let my hair down. So, needless to say, our moment in the sun will be our moment of glory. Mark my words, nothing ventured, nothing gained. You're one in a million. You're the apple of my eye. You're pure as the driven snow. Not fresh fallen, but driven. And this is why it's right as rain, and my only choice is to seize the day. It takes two to tango, and I'm the real deal. You're too good to be true, so I'll take my chances. You only live once, so let's take the plunge. How many cliches can I come up with for Cliche Day, right? Anywho, this next poem is called Opens the Door for All, and it was written on the 7th of November for the November 7th of 1867 birthday of Marie Curie. This poem is titled Opens the Door for All. Born in Warsaw, the youngest of 5, she did well in school, but it didn't matter when women were not allowed higher education. Undeterred, she even made deals with professors to work there for free so that she could also illegally go to school before schooling in Paris. While there, she found her love in Pierre. They married. They gave each other bicycles as wedding presents while she wore a black dress to her wedding, so dirt wouldn't show when she went back to work. And work she did, separately from Pierre, until she discovered radioactivity, and Pierre put his pride aside and worked to help his wife. After his accidental death, she was heartbroken. It was a heartbreaking loss for her, but she took over his teaching post, making her Sorbonne's first female professor. She discovered radioactivity but also a new element named for her home country. And in World War I, she developed portable X-ray devices they nicknamed Little Curies. The Great War didn't get her, but her love of her studies did, as working with radiation so long and keeping vials of radium in her lab pockets daily would be too much, even for her genius. People truly admire Albert Einstein, whom she worked with, but for women and for all humankind, this woman faced more obstacles than most and opened the door for all. I've got a nice short one here that I'm going to share with you, and it was written in November during National Novel Writing Month, and the short one is titled Just So Others Can Feel. Everyone has a story inside of them. Sometimes you look over your life and wonder if your life is a soap opera. After you've witnessed atrocities, after you've felt indescribable joys, you've wondered, maybe you can. Maybe you can describe that joy, just so others can feel what you feel. Isn't that what novel writing is all about? Just so others can feel. Not bad. This one, I've got maybe two more I'd like to share with you. This first one was written on the 10th of November, and it is titled Over Hazardous Lands. The 10th of November is actually the Marine Corps' birthday. I see a Marine walking over there. Maybe he can hear this one. This is written for the Marine Corps' birthday. It's called Over Hazardous Lands. When I was stranded on a mountainside behind enemy lines, the tallest Marine I know helped me retreat, change my dressing, and when bombs took out our route to base, he even carried me over hazardous lands so we could both make it. I could go on about how I chose to marry a Marine, but maybe his everyday actions reflect the character that makes a Marine. Their slogan line starts by saying, "The few." And I'm glad I found one of the few who makes a difference in every aspect of their lives. They step ahead. They help those in need. And they make a real difference. I think my Marine walked away. He got shy. This last one, and this is funny because I was actually talking about this ship, this Zong, very recently. And I've got a poem about it here. This is titled The Ethical Thing to Do, and it was written on the 29th of November. It was the day of the 1781 Zong Massacre, where a British slave ship crew murdered 133 Africans by dumping them into the sea to claim insurance. This poem is titled Ethical Thing to Do. Today I was asked if I knew the date when ethics courses became mandatory for business college degrees. I had no idea, and I said it had to be recent, and they nodded in agreement. And then I thought it probably coincided with the civil rights movement, so I guess in the 1950s or 60s. They answered, wrong millennium, which confused me greatly, because the Enron scandal of a business knowingly lying to their investors to give their company an inflated wealth, that is why it was only 2004 where Susan Phillips led a task forces to push for an increased education of ethics into business. People losing money, that's what caused the push, not say racial or gender reasons, ethically. I often thought of the day when the crew of the British slave ship Zong murdered 133 Africans by dumping them into the sea to claim insurance. It sounds horrific, I know, to know that back then people would fill their ships with more slaves than their boat could handle to increase profits with every trip across the ocean. But by the 29th of November in 1781, some slaves were already sick and dying when the Zong got caught in, get this, the doldrums. Now, seriously, this area for the ocean, in the ocean, is known to have no wind at all. So often, if a ship got stuck in the doldrums, they would be stuck and run out of food or water and die. Well, the Zong got caught there, and with dying slaves and having to keep enough water for the rest of the crew, they thought it made sense if they unloaded their excess cargo so their crewmates would live. Besides, large ships like this paid insurance for their cargo, like slaves, so they could get their money for their losses. Once a Zong arrived in Jamaica, they filed their claim for their loss, for they did not have enough water to save all. The insurance underwriter protested, citing that the ship still had 420 gallons aboard upon arrival. Abolitionists claimed that with this first-time use of the word massacre, but the British soldiers, the British Solicitor General, said the slaves are goods and property, and that it was actually madness to accuse these honorable men for murder because throwing property overboard, quote, is the same as if wood had been thrown overboard. And those are his words. Those are the actual thoughts of the times. During this trip, 10 slaves threw themselves overboard as an act of protest. If they knew they were going to die, it makes me think of the people I remember seeing jump out of the World Trade Center towers after those terrorist attacks in 2001. Did they jump because it was the lesser of two evils? Or did they do it because it was the ethical thing to do? For we forget that there's no disconnect when it comes to ethics, not only in business, but also in our personal lives. This is all on this continuum, because our ethical choices tie everything together. Some people wonder why we need to teach ethics in a business curriculum. Then again, others would wonder why it wasn't taught before, after realizing how in business ethics it can be thrown out the window, where people forget how desperately ethics needs to be woven into everything, into our lives. As we were walking along here, they were talking about slave ships on one of the banners here right along the coast, and I brought this story up, which is mind-blowing, but I'm going to come up with more readings for you guys right here at the Performance Pavilion, the French Market, and the French Quarter, in honor of the wonderful poetry open mic that usually runs on the first Wednesdays. So you guys, I will be here with some more poetry. You guys hang in there, stay safe, and I'll talk to each and every one of you very, very soon. Thank you very, very much.